Welcome to my humble little office. My name is R. Keith Andrews. I'm a spiritual guide and paranormal adept. The journey continues today on November 2nd, 2021 at approximately 1:07 a.m. At approximately 1:07 p.m. PST. Well, this is a live recording, meaning I simply go back at the beginning of to the beginning. When I'm done the recording, I will go back, double check, make sure I got the date correct, and then everything else just goes as is. So any hiccups that you come across, any stumbles that I make, you get to see them. The plus side is if you ever run into me in person, you'll find that I do the exact same thing. I'm not absolutely perfect by any functional means. With that in mind, a couple of complicated things happened. Okay. Now I've been doing this now since March 6th of 2021. And it's gone through a lot of interesting shifts. Well, right now, I literally ran into an interesting snag. I had a very confusing conversation in a lot of ways with Author House. With Author House. Yeah, we're going to trip over it. Today's going to be good. Anyway, if you like the video, absolutely give us a thumbs up, subscribe to the channel, but remember, when you subscribe to the channel, hit that alert button to let yourself know when the next video comes up. I had a conversation yesterday, and right now it's a little premature to discuss that side of it, but what it did do was it got me thinking about exactly what I'm up to and how to make it happen. Well, rewind and think for half a second. Where it comes to writing the Yldrbac Chronicles, I'm most of the way through the final edit on the End of an Epoch, which is a sequel to The Birth of the Wolf Pack, already in print, and found there is a major shift I have to do, so I'm running into a snag figuring out how to do it. Now, whenever you have a goal that you've got in mind, a project that you've been working on, even if it's a project that you put on hold, okay, whatever reason you put it on hold. In my case, the last few days have just been nuts. Got up this morning, I packed it in last night, about 10:30, 11 o'clock, and literally in the middle of a conversation, I passed out. No alcohol involved, just my blood pressure, my pulse, and my whole 9 yards has been a little scrambled. With that in mind, got up this morning, did what I had to, went back to sleep, and ended up sleeping for another 3 hours. Scrambled my day completely. But I'm still stuck with the same problem. I've got this major project, the Yldrbac Chronicles. This is the first one that's come out. The sequel, I'm aiming at having finished before the end of this year. Now, this is The Birth of the Wolf Pack. The End of an Epoch, which is the sequel to it. We're in final edit, and I came across a major shift that I have to deal with. But it is causing all kinds of troubles trying to figure out where it is. When you've got a project, do what I do. Okay, just a thought. Okay, this list that I've got here, now right now this is only looking like notes. Everything I was supposed to be doing I've got done, but at this point, I'm in the middle of reorganizing an entire chunk of the book to move what has to be moved. And to do that, and this certainly applies to anybody doing writing. Okay, it applies if you're writing a song, if you're doing artwork, whatever. Well, artwork's a little more complicated. Because, of course, once you draw something, there is no going back, unless you're doing digital artwork, which makes it a little easier. Make what they call crib notes, little notes to get yourself organized. Okay, and get it organized so that you can make things happen, because by reorganizing, and I've mentioned this before, if you're not content with something, if it doesn't fit, reorganize the energy so that it runs in the way that you're content with. But it is so much easier to identify the things you're not happy with than it is to identify the ones that you're content with. Okay, or that you may be content with. And it's the ones you're not content with that you focus on. This applies to whatever your project is, your business, your home life, your relationships, friendships, it doesn't matter. They all apply. Now, here's the thing. Everybody in existence has the same situation. Doesn't matter how you got to where you are. Where you are right this moment is where we start. Okay. Doesn't matter what your current bank account looks like, your orientation, your spiritual alignment. It doesn't make any difference. Everybody in this respect is the same. Now, I've got this major project a major reorganization that's taking place. And you do this with your life as well, by the way. Take a look at your life, and what you might find is, and if you think about it in terms of reorganizing your house or reorganizing your room, by planning it out and making notes so that you can figure out how you're moving everything, kind of like putting a puzzle together. Reorganize things, okay, so that you can figure out where you're heading. That becomes the biggest bonus right there. So here I am in the middle of trying to reorganize this, and I'm finding that it's a bigger job than I was thinking. And all it is there's 2 chapters, I think it's only 2, that shouldn't have been in this book. Okay, so I've got to figure out how to reorganize. Otherwise, the storyline goes along this path and all of a sudden goes that direction and just completely screws it up. So I'm having to reorganize it. You may have to do the same thing, but it's always done one step at a time. Okay, where it comes to trying to break a really bad habit, you've got the same situation. It's one day at a time. Okay, now, I build myself as a spiritual guide. And the reason I do that is because all of the tools that I talk about, all the paths all the philosophies I live by, they're the ones that work for me. They may or may not work for you. Don't take my word for it. If you haven't given these methods a shot, open the door, take that chance, and see if it helps you redirect the way your energy is going. Okay. I know once I get this major chunk sorted around, which is, by the look of it, going to take me a few more days just to make sure I get it absolutely right. But once I get that done, then I'll be able to run really smoothly through the next book. Now, I started off saying I got a call from one of the people working with me in Author House. Okay. And it got me thinking, I've got to get this because things are starting to move way faster than I was planning on. Of course, in all fairness, I wasn't exactly planning. Okay, but I discovered a few days ago why I was holding myself back. And this applies to you. If you look at your world, at the way your life is going, ask yourself, is it possible you're holding yourself back? I didn't think that was what was going on. I literally was looking at it going, I don't get it. Nothing I'm doing is really working that well. Okay, then I was talking to my brother. I made a comment to him, told him my next 2 books are coming out into print next year. Now, bear in mind, one of them is ready to go. I just have to track down the soft copy. The other one, okay, the end of an epoch, I've got to finish writing. But I've got myself a definitive deadline at this time that I've put on for me. Now, it's already written. I just have to finish the editing until I found this snag. Okay, but once you find what's holding you back, what you've been denying of your own drives, of your own goals, okay, that's when you'll find that your life starts to take a turn for the better. Okay, now today has been just an absolute write-off. Like I said, I woke up, ended up going back to sleep for another 3 hours, which means my whole day has been shot to pieces. Okay. But the reason for that is I couldn't figure out why my energy levels were fluctuating so badly. Well, it's because I did it to myself. Okay. Now, yes, I'm a spiritual guide. Does this mean I'm perfect? Absolutely not. And this is why I turn to other people. Because of one little message that I came back to this world for on this lifetime at this point. and that is to help people understand, to spread one simple message. Working together, we can make this a better world for virtually everybody. Now, marketing is not my strong suit. And of course, being a professional procrastinator at the same time has really not helped. Okay, but the people at Author House for me have helped immensely. The individual helping me with the editing is doing an absolutely spectacular job, and the continued following and continued support that I get from you people has been absolutely invaluable. The funny thing is, I was not looking at getting onto any sort of a pedestal, any sort of a major spotlight event. I mean, frankly, I'm essentially reclusive. Okay, I finally figured out how to do my shopping without actually leaving the house, which is not necessarily a good thing because it gives me a good reason not to leave the house. Now, of course, in today's world, everybody's going, well, you have to be vaccinated, etc., etc. And I will tell you, it will make your life easier in a lot of ways. There's a lot of things that are being taken away if you don't. For me, it's worked out beautifully. It has saved me a small fortune. Okay. Now, last month, where are we here? We're now into November. So in September, I had listed that I required required $2,000 a month. I required, or I desired to acquire a minimum of $2,000 a month. I hit that with sparkling color, in absolute sparkling fashion. In October, I pushed it up and said I desire to make over 2,500. Crush that one, no problem. Okay, for November, I'm pushing 3,000. And baseline consideration is I may just make that. Now, part of that is going to be because that's the overall picture. Now, the other catch to that is I also run a business. But this is where I've been falling short, and this is why I've got to start pushing the issue for me to attain my goals. Okay, I got on the horn with Author House and really got an idea of what was required, what was going to be necessary to make my dreams a reality. Okay, now, the one dream that's a reality is that, I do intend on finding a second wife. Actually, in all fairness, if I get my way, I've already found them. It's just a question of whether they say yes when we get around to asking, which we'll find out whether that happens. But the other one is I do desire to get these books printed. But in order to do that, I have to get absolutely focused and get things moving in the right direction. Once I move these few chapters that have to be moved from The End of an Epoch to Return to Paradise, which will be the final book, and I've already started writing it. Once I get it done, everything will fall into place. As you can tell, at least I think you can tell, yes, I end up sleeping way too much, and net result, take feeling like I've overslept, like I've completely scrambled the day. Okay, and all of a sudden you'll understand, potentially, why my energy is running the way it is. Okay. So, of course, I get up from that way too long asleep in my eyes, find out a couple of things. One, I've slept my day. Two, I'm behind the eight ball. Okay, as in, I'm not getting things acquired that I desire to get acquired. Okay, or get completed. Okay, now I know where I'm standing there, and it's given me a real definitive sense of I've got to go this direction. If you're holding yourself back, okay, if you feel like you're being held back, and I get calls from people all the time about this, the world's against me, I'm not successful anywhere. Well, if you're not successful, ask yourself one thing. Are you not successful because you're striving to do something you're not happy with? Or are you not successful because you've been treating people like dirt? Okay, either one will be counterproductive. Karmic law, the only three laws I follow. Be true to yourself first. Now, that's where I've been holding back. That's where I've personally been having a problem. I have not been going after the things that have been making me happy. And quite frankly, writing, I'm content with. I enjoy it. Okay, ideally, I will get it to the point where it's actually generating an income so that I can relax and carry on doing what I'm doing. But that's the first karmic law. The second one, do unto others as you desire them to do unto you. Now, my entire life, I've treated everybody essentially the same, regardless of their station in life, their pocketbook, who they were worshiping, what their sexual orientation was. Doesn't matter to me. I don't care what people's skin color is. Of course, growing up colorblind, you learn that everybody's gray anyway. Okay, so the second karmic law I've had no problem with. The third one, energy out, energy in. Being a professional procrastinator, I've been a victim of it. I keep putting things off, not putting the effort into it. Net result, things don't change. And by the way, for you and those of you that go, well, I pray every day, you may be running into a problem. Okay, don't get me wrong, do your prayers, absolutely. But a shift that you may desire to look at. Okay, instead of asking for things, because asking for something when you're thinking in linear terms, asking for something makes absolute sense. Okay, if you don't have it, ask for it. Okay, but the universe works differently. The universe sees it as today, tomorrow, and yesterday are all the same point in time. Therefore, if you see yourself as not having something, so you're asking for it, what the universe sees is you've never had it, you never will have it. So it hears, please let me experience a lack of having this thing. Okay, for those of you that are praying, the only suggestion I have for you is instead of asking for the strength, instead of asking for the prosperity, thank whoever you're praying to for providing you with said strength, said prosperity, said better health. My health has been climbing steadily until I ran into a snag because I was having this neat little problem of, well, what am I doing wrong? And then it dawned on me. The people that I was comparing myself to were all really content with themselves, or at least appeared to be. They were doing things they enjoyed. That doesn't mean their life was perfect, but it means that they were content with it, and therefore were not spending a whole lot of money trying to convince themselves they were perfect. Prime example of that, and this is where this whole COVID thing came in brilliantly for me. I didn't realize it, but I wasn't content with me. I was not content with what I was doing. Net result, I was spending a staggering amount of time or of money at a specific restaurant. I liked the people there. I liked the way that they treated me. I liked the service I was getting. Problem was, I was not developing any sort of a connection with any of them, as it turned out. Even the ones I thought I had connected to, and ended up with emails and points on Facebook and what have you. Even them, when COVID came out and said, if you don't get double vaccinated, you can't go to the restaurant. Many of them said they'd stay in touch. Not a one of them did. And I'm not upset by that at all. In all fairness, I'm actually quite grateful for it. Not that I don't want to talk to them. I'd love to. But the reality of it is, it was stopping me from realizing what I was doing to myself. I was spending a whole pile of money trying to make myself happy. Okay? It doesn't work. Even these little figures. I spent a staggering amount of money on buying these little figures that I do paint. And I mean, I am still working on them. You can't tell it with this one. Okay. But, well, you can. Just at the bottom, you can see the bottom has been painted. But I've got something in the neighborhood of 450 of these little figures that are not painted. Have I been taking the time to paint them? No. I've been spending a lot of time writing, though. And unfortunately, the last 2 or 3 days, my like I said, my health has been completely off track. I'm fine, but my pulse and my blood pressure have been all over the neighborhood. And obviously, my energy level has been kind of tanked. But if you're not content, you may be spending way more money than you should be. Okay, trying to convince yourself you're content. And that was the mistake I was making. Okay, so now I figured this out. Okay, and hopefully this is making sense to you. But like I said, for those of you that are praying, carry on your prayers. Carry on doing that. In today's vernacular, many people are praying. Some people call it a dream board. Some people call it manifestation. I don't care if you call it a peanut butter sandwich. Whatever is working, if it helps you feel better about you, absolutely do it. Okay. Now, the path I go down regarding prayer is my issue. Okay. I have a much different method of praying than some people do. I just talk directly to the individual that I consider God. Okay. And when I mean talk directly to him, I mean just as though I'm talking to you. And quite frankly, I've got the same attitude. Okay. But once you figure out what's holding you back and ask yourself, are you holding yourself back? If you're treating people in a way that you would not desire, that you personally do not desire to be treated, you're the one causing the problem. If you're having problems with relationships where you're constantly having them end. I was approached by a chap one day, and he asked me point blank. He says, I don't get it. I can't hold a relationship together. Why not? And I asked him, I says, well, look at the common denominator. Right. And he goes, what do you mean? I says, well, you know your strengths, your weaknesses. You know the little quirks and the foibles you've got. And he goes, absolutely. I says, well, assuming obviously that the person you're trying to date is female, would you want to date somebody exactly like you with all of those qualities? And the guy looks at me and he goes, God, no. And then he stops and he goes, wait a minute, I'm the problem? I said, absolutely. Okay, I says, now we can straighten out where the issue is. You may be having the same problem. If your relationships are coming apart consistently, or if you're constantly fighting about the same thing, you yourself may be the complication. It's something to consider. But remember, communication is invariably a two-way street. You've got your opinion, they've got their opinion. Somewhere between the two is what's going on. Sometimes you'll just have to agree to disagree. Okay, I've gotten into conversations with people in today's world. I've gotten into conversations with people on religion, on politics, on health, as in COVID, as I've gotten in. Well, in all fairness, I used to get into conversations with people because I kept having, heart attacks and, annoyances like that. People kept saying, oh, you got to go to the doctor. I'm like, I don't have to go to the doctor. I've got the heart attack down fine. I don't need to go to a doctor to find out if I'm having one. But what I did have to do was get a handle on why I was having them. Okay, which is why I had to look in, when I got to this issue, this hiccup in the writing, I looked at it and went, why is there a problem here? It's got to be internally consistent. I ran into the same snag when I was looking at certain little projects. The education system, quite frankly, at least in Canada, from my experience, is drastically flawed. Okay, it's turning out people, it's graduating people with great marks that can't do basic things. Okay, when I was looking for an artist for the books I'm writing, I went to an art school and to a university that was literally for artists looking to get ahead. Now, the administration in both of these institutions were fantastic, but not one artist that was actually taking these classes that was taking them with the premise that that's what they desired to do for a living. Not a one of them contacted me and bear in mind, I was willing to pay at the time. Well, I still am. But not a one of them was approached me regarding it. Net result, long drawn out process. I found an artist in England that is doing all of the work for these. Okay, he's already done the cover work, and the same artist will be doing the internal work for the book inside. Okay, I've got another artist in Texas, down in the southern states, that is doing all of the artwork for the reference manuals Races of the World. Okay, and the neat part about those two books is, whereas the reference manual gives the basic overall outline, okay, the general information, those same races will be used inside the Yldrbac Chronicles, where you'll get to see more of the social interaction. Okay, works out nicely. It's kind of like an addition to the Yldrbac Chronicles, which is why when I take a look at these projects, this is how big this project has gotten, has become. I've got 12 volumes, which is ultimately 4 trilogies, all interlinked. Okay, there will be an extra book on Jeremiah Wollstron, who is the primary character in the Yldrbac Chronicles. There will be an addendum when all 12 are out. I'm putting together a book on just his journal entries. And I'm also putting together a compendium that contains all the information. Well, obviously, that one comes out after the rest come out. And then, just to make things more complicated, there is one book that I'm looking at, and I haven't written it yet, that will cover Jeremiah's time on a space station. Now, understand, these are all interlocked. Okay. And the last one is, these are all books that I will be working on, but then, in all fairness, I'm working on 32 at the same time, plus organizing my house to make it work properly. Take a look at your life, and if you haven't done so, and I know I've said it before, take a look at it today and ask yourself one question. What am I not content with? Okay, am I not making headway on the path that I desire to be on? Have I stopped myself from moving forward because somebody else said I couldn't do it? Okay, now I will tell you, it's a long haul a lot of the time. This doesn't mean it's not doable, it just means it's going to take you time. The only things that aren't doable is if you had a time limit. Okay, like, for instance, I originally desired the end of an epic to come out last year, but because of a scramble job, it didn't happen. I cannot get the end of an epic out by the end of 2019, or of 2020. Okay, but I'm certainly pushing everything I can to make it happen before the end of 2021. And as I told the chap at Author House, okay, the stuff he's talking about, I just don't have the finances right now to make it happen. It's going to take some time, and I've already booked all of my spare money for the end of the year. So that's done. But on a plus note, I did end up doing something wonderful today. And yeah, we're only November 1st. But aside from from 2 items, okay, and I know exactly what they are. The one's just going to take me a little bit. The other one I still have to decide on. Okay, but I am finished my holiday shopping before I get anywhere near the end of it. I'm finished it. So I don't have to stress about that at all. Okay, I don't have to leave my house anymore to go grocery shopping, except for to get perishables, because I'll be danged if I'm going to order milk through the mail. But the world is changing. It's not what it used to be. Fortunately, it's become, I don't know if it's a good thing or a bad thing, but it has become rather something I can work with, being rather reclusive. Now, on that note, I will be back again tomorrow. But until then, take care of yourselves and each other, and for pity's sakes, stay positive.